Okay, so I watched this Facebook reel about how this guy goes into McDonald's and he's up with the early risers, as I might say, the guys who bust their ass every day from the get go, like who get up at 5, 6 a.m. and they need that coffee in their system to continue out most of their start of their day. And there's these two construction workers that don't know each other's names, don't know each other at all, and they're talking across the entire diner. It still is a diner, but they know everybody can hear them, and they talk about everything that's going on in their wives and how one lost a wife. Basically, I just want to get to this point that not everyone needs reassurance. Not everyone needs a friend. Not everyone needs safety. Not everyone needs complete and absolute attention. Because you can get attention from anywhere. You can get all of that from anywhere. And we teach our kids to not talk to strangers. And I just want to point out that we should teach kids that. But we should also, when those kids turn into adults, we need to teach kids to learn how to talk to strangers when they're adults. Because how else will you ever connect with anybody? This is me trying to connect with people because you may see my Facebook, you may see my name, but you don't know me as a person. You don't know me. Not a lot of people know me. Not a lot of people. I mean, I got people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis, and it's not a lot of people, but I mean, I'm not trying to get attention. This is just my honest attempt at connecting with people who have gone through something similar in strife, because we all have, right? Let me give you an example of what I had to go through. I was living in a condemned duplex with my ex, and I worked at a place called Ryan's. It's a buffet. It got closed down eventually, but that's not the point. Now, to get the most money for the month, and every month after that I worked there for about 7 months, I couldn't keep the job because so much was going on. And I had to quit eventually to figure out what was going on with everything. But during those 7 months, I didn't turn down any position or any shift change they ever gave me. If they wanted me to work the night well into midnight sometimes to get the whole entire place cleaned and organized, I would do it. If I had to work afternoon, cooking steaks on the grill and making sure every single order was as requested, no matter any bullshit I got from the customer, I had to do it for my other coworkers who got tips off of how well I did, because they would serve the food, but they get the tips for how well it's served and also their ability to serve it, right? I had to work morning. I didn't have a car. This was every day in the morning. I had to wake up at 4 a.m. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't have any energy pills. I would walk from my condemned duplex, where it was horrible living, honestly. I mean, the rent was cheap, but you get what you pay for. And I would walk a mile, literal. If it wasn't a mile, then it took me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, somewhere around there, maybe even close to 40 minutes. hell, even longer sometimes, honestly, it felt like, to get all the way from my duplex in close to downtown where we are, and it's a very small downtown, all the way over to where all the fast food joints are, which is like on the other side of town. And I had to do this. I had to get up at 4 a.m. every morning, almost every morning, if the shift required. And I blasted. I had MP3 player, which is basically the smartphone, right? And I would hook up my headphones and I would blast Slipknot. And most of the time, if you've ever heard the Slipknot song called Duality, that was, I would thrash my body to wake up. I would be dancing throughout the street when, at the break of dawn, right before the sun would come up. And I would just be trying to wake my body and mind up through that. My performance at work was average, which is just required, right? But that is, I mean, usually most the people you will find that you can actually connect with are those who go through some of the hardest struggles that they've ever had in their life. Now, I'm not saying it's a struggle as hard as others, but it's one of the hardest struggles I've ever had to go through in my life, is just getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning and having to work the rest of 9 hours after walking a mile. And is sometimes even in winter, the months were, and school doesn't prepare you for this. School doesn't prepare you for that at all. No part of elementary, middle, or high school prepares you for the physical and mental load that you will actually have to be required to do to try to bust your ass at a job. I've had tons of jobs, but I always had to quit because if I didn't quit and like focus on my personal life and what was going on, whether I was broke or not, it was going to be way worse, way later down the line. And honestly, I'm glad I quit most of the jobs I had, or just about every job I had. I'm not going to sit there until I get fired. They wanted me to work, but I had to quit. It was necessary for me to. There's so much shit that goes on in our personal lives that we can't give full attention to because we're so taken away by our jobs and responsibility to provide income. It's a huge problem. And this goes, like, my mom doesn't even understand this. She's a baby boomer. She was born in 1962. She's worked 40 years busting her ass for me and my sister. My sister eventually got a nice job, but her life is starting to crumble. She's keeping it by a thread, I realize now. My mom is her eyes, like right here, like I don't know if you can see, like right in this area, see my finger, are sunken. It's like I've always thought this about my mom. Those 40 years she's worked relentlessly, she will never get back. No sleep will ever be the same again for her. I ask her all the time when I was with her, I was like, so did you have any dreams? And she's like, honestly, I don't think I dream anymore. And I told her, eventually I was like, okay, well, honestly, I wish that she never made, because it just seems like excuses to me to have an income and be happy. If she had quit her job at Walmart somewhere in the middle of my teenage years, I think I would have understood as a teenager it was necessary. She was always on the couch, sleeping. And I was practically always alone. Don't get me wrong, I have amazing talks with my mom. It's not so great now because we're at a difference again, but currently, I can't talk to anyone else like I can talk to my mom. I can't. Maybe one person, and that's very, very rare. But if I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind have been homeless with my mom. I wouldn't have minded because it was just us together and against the fucking world, man. I could have still been happy. It more than anything than she could have ever taught me. Because she was so tired and exhausted. She never had time to teach me as much as honestly she should have. If I had gone homeless with my mom, I would have learned to get my ass in gear even sooner. She could have devoted way more time into my life instead of worrying about a roof and just food and water and all that, and making it seem like that is a blessing. Because I'll be honest with you guys, the fact you can work is a blessing. But all this shit they're telling you that you need money for that roof, that food, that water is a fucking lie. Okay? I've been homeless before. I'm happily homeless right now. And honestly, I'm not suffering that much. People think about someone who's homeless as like this broken down old man who just has lost his way in life. That's far from the truth, man. I'm 29 years old. People are like, why don't you get a job? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it's part of the location you're at. If people know you and you know other people and other people know you, even managers can have a bias. There was one time that I even went into Hardee's or someplace. Actually, it was Hardee's, yeah. And the interview led to me waving at her goodbye. And somehow, because I'd been diagnosed as schizophrenic, she looked behind her and like I was waving at somebody else. Now tell me why I want to go anywhere in this small town I'm in and go and apply again. The only job I can trust that will actually hire me is a factory job that even though you could be a felon, you could still get a job at. Because honestly, the other jobs around this town that I'm in, it's either fast food, factory, loan offices, Walmart, or law enforcement. We don't, and the small businesses that are downtown, like they are apparently so exclusive, dude. I don't know how to work on cars. I was never taught. And no one will ever give me a chance to learn. Because there's so much to learn. They just want somebody with experience already. And there's tons of people with experience over me. So therefore I can never get a job in that. I could try to work fast food, but people at fast food restaurants, the managers especially, seem to be so snide. And apparently know me on a personal bias from apparently voices in their head, because apparently they've heard about me, and apparently I'm like crazy or something. Do I sound crazy? I can't get a job at Walmart because honestly, fuck Walmart. I hate everything about it. It's a dead end job. Why would I want to go there? I don't want to get a job at a loan office because I know I'm ripping people off. But money's money, right? No, fuck you. I'd get a job at a factory. Tyson Chicken. Because at least there's opportunity for different positions and better pay. And they're not going to judge me by what they hear or any past information I have. Now, I may be killing chickens, but at least I'm feeding people by working at that job and putting into and getting meat on the shelves in the supermarkets where people enjoy to eat chicken, right? But that's just one opportunity. I mean, what it all boils down to is like when they say a beggar can't be a chooser, it never made sense in my head. I don't even beg. I don't ask for money. I ask for food. I ask for water. And I don't beg doing it. I ask. I don't beg. And I'm trying to connect to other people by saying this because I know this is going on long. I know, but bear with me. I'm just trying to connect to people because it's like there's a disconnect because it's like people have been homeless, but it's like they never truly realize what homeless is. It's not horrible at all. All it is survival. And people have been doing that for thousands of years. Even when you're working your ass off to pay bills, you're still surviving. You're not really living. I enjoy things even while having so less. You know why? I don't need a car. I don't. Because I can walk. I don't need a soda that's ridiculously overpriced. Because I love water. I don't need the best fucking food. Because, in my opinion, food is food. And I could enjoy it. If dog food didn't fuck with my human stomach. Because I've eaten dog food as a dare before when I was a child. And it actually tasted pretty fucking good. But I threw it up because my stomach couldn't handle it. But if I had the choice of just snacking on dog food I could do that. You choose what you enjoy and how much you are willing to take. Remember that. My mom apparently doesn't understand that. She worked 40 motherfucking years at various jobs, landed 16 years in Walmart, sleep deprived completely, the depths of hell in her eyes. She even told me suicide plans. And she is just one of the other people that agree, apparently, in this insane world, that you need an income, that you need a roof over your head, that you need a car, that you need money. The only time I ever need money is when I conveniently need something. And if you really think about it, most of everything that you buy with money is because of convenience. Everything's got to be faster. Everything's got to be stronger. Everything's got to be smarter. Everything's got to be better. Everything has to, or else you just won't enjoy it, right? It's not completely true. It's not completely true. I may want a job, but I don't need a job. I don't need one. Because I'll tell you, if I was asked where do I see myself in 5 years, I would have to say, if I feel like I have something personally going on and I'm not allowed to take time off to deal with what is going on. No, and it shouldn't matter the degree of it. That shouldn't matter. If it's important enough to me to take time off to deal with it, I should be able to. And if I can't take time off, then I'm just going to quit. Because honestly, in my opinion, this is my opinion. Keep in mind, I'm 29 years old. I'm at the crux of 30, and I still remember being 20. So, if something is so personal that it's creating a problem with everything else, I have to put everything on halt to pay attention to it and solve it. Figure it out, understand it. Because I know if I don't, it's going to take root and become such a problem later in life. My mom doesn't understand that. Actually, I don't think anybody in my family understands that at all. Cousins, whatever. I don't think a lot of people understand that. Your job shouldn't be more important than you or anyone else in your life that you care about. The minute you start thinking that, you are a slave. You are a slave. And that's why I'll probably quit every job I ever get, because there's always going to be a personal problem. And I will never have time off to take care of it. So I want to connect on what homelessness really is like for some people, okay? If you've never been homeless, just think about what I said. I mean, my thoughts. I mean, I'm living in a broken down car. I mean, I got a roof over my head, but I have to ask for food because I can't go in and just make the food. I'd get kicked out, right? But I actually did ask, and I made some food. They allowed me to. That's great. But you know what I could have done, which I'm starting to figure out, is foraging for my food, fishing, hunting. I'm going to figure that out. So I don't have to ask anybody else, because apparently if you ask someone else, everybody else says that's a problem because of this, and how you're being dependent. Like dependency was ever such a problem in the first place. Now, I can understand if you're, let's say, you're letting someone stay with you, right? And they don't appreciate the things that you do for them. They don't respect you. They question things you do, or they just utterly don't give a fuck. Don't you realize that even most of you have said you can't just change what people do? You can't just force people to do what you want. That goes in the term of, like, I'm going to tell you honestly, my straight up fucking proposition that I've given myself. If I get a job, when I get a job at a factory or somewhere that will take me, when I get my own place, if I want to get my own place, I'm going to start taking people off the street, dude. I'm going to give them a place to stay. There's no homeless shelter in this small town. No. We spend it on Discovery Park of America and entertainment and police and fast food and loan offices and banks and gas and everything else. And I'm not going to name this town, honestly, but I don't like this town because it has never taken care of people. I've always had the worst experience in this town. And I've been to Seattle, I've been to North Carolina, I've been to Ohio, I've been to West Virginia, I've been to Washington, D.C., I've been to Indiana. There's some places in this town that's great to go to. Very selective. I can only think of like a gas station. There's no homeless shelter. And you want to know what happens in this town if you're homeless and the police see you homeless? And they see you grazing? They literally pick you up off the street and throw you in jail. That's why if you're homeless in this town, you can't be caught being homeless. You can't, or else your ass goes straight to jail. And people all over America talk about unconstitutional things, man. And all these other rights that people have. How is it right that if you don't want to have a house or a car and you want to just put a tent in maybe an owned lot that is never visited, frequently that place gets checked by the cops to take those people to fucking jail? all of it depresses me, but I can honestly look at positive things. I do. Even though there's a barely broken plastic small heater that I'm working with, I can still take that heater and the middle off of it. The fan doesn't work, but I can blow on the middle and it disperses the heat that I need. Only for a limited amount of time, but at least I get heat. At least I get food. I can get water out the side of a water hose tap. And I have somewhat of a roof that is covering my head, keeping the wind and rain and elements out in this winter. We don't get snow here. They always call for it. We never get snow. The last time it snowed was like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, as far as I can remember, or even want to guess to remember. What we get is constant fucking rain in the winter. Cold rain. The degree stays at a constant, at night, either 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. There's wind howling right now. You won't hear it, but it's very subtle wind. But this wind, if you are walking the streets wanting to go to the park, this is not a winter town. This is a summer town, and people still live here. This wind will knock the fucking heat out of your bones if you don't wear enough layers. And this is in the South, okay? And people want to talk about global warming, bro. This shit, I remember circa 1916 picture. In the middle of winter, it looked like summer down here in Tennessee. And more specifically, northwestern Tennessee. If you don't understand anything about any other part of the world and you only are locked to northwestern Tennessee, understand this is the most fucking bipolar weather you will ever encounter. Even in winter, it can get up to 50 degrees in the day, 20 degrees at night. Then the next day, it'll be 20 degrees and then 10 degrees at night. People get sick constantly. We got a hospital. And it's all right. It's all right. But if you don't have good insurance, like I'm honestly depending on the government right now. I'm going to be honest. I'm drawing SSI, SSDI. Because I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar, and I was told that it would be difficult for me to work. How? That ties into like, how could it be difficult for me to work? When I don't have that much paranoia. Even off medication, I've realized I've stopped taking my medication. I don't have much paranoia anymore. I don't even hallucinate, or even if they say I have delusions, in my head, it's my reality. And if you were in my shoes, I could prove it. But otherwise, it's unprovable, right? They say I have bipolar. You know what? I realize what bipolar actually is? And this is my experience. Bipolar is a thought process switch. It's not just jumping from one thought process to another automatically. It's not like that. It's like you go through an entire thought process fast enough that you realize something is not right, and it changes your mood. And you do it so fucking fast that people are like, whoa, you're bipolar, right? You're not bipolar. You just had a thought process switch faster than anybody could expect. I don't take medication. I haven't been taking medication for half a month, honestly. Does it sound like I'm really that crazy? Does it sound like I can make rational thought in a little bit of sense? I told my psychiatrist that just because there's a checklist, and this is how it's done in psychology, to determine if someone is schizophrenic or bipolar or has a medical condition that is affected by the brain, they'll make a checklist off of what is wrong. But you never get an MRI. These are real. An MRI brain scan and shown the areas compared to a normal brain where you're actually schizophrenic and bipolar. She just said it's going to be a lot harder for you down the road if you don't continue this treatment. She didn't even try. Honestly. All those degrees on her walls are bullshit. And she's a nice person. I'm not going to deny that. She's a nice person. But she only knows what she was taught. And what you're taught is to not actually think. It's just like you're taught to have an income to be happy. Because they'll say rationally, right, logically, well, if you don't have a roof or food or water, you can't be comfortable and you can't be happy. Okay, well, that's kind of true. But, you can literally find a cave somewhere in the wild. There's your roof. You can provide yourself warmth by creating a fire. It inducts in the cave and spreads out the heat. And even the rock absorbs the heat after a while, and you can lean against the rock. And you absorb that heat from the rock and the fire. There's your warmth. There's a literal company that makes life straws that filters out. Like you can take a straw and go to any stream, and it will filter out what is bad for you. And you can drink water from a stream using that straw. And your food, you may not be a hunter fishing honestly is better because it's kind of easier. But if you can't hunt or fish, you can still gather and have a good meal. But you always need that fat, right? So, but really, if you think about it, all these things are just so out of the way, and nobody does them because everybody's used to convenience. You are taught from a young age, all around you at all times, that you need that convenience to be happy. You're taught you can just use this money, this paper, this currency, this fake shit, this note that says it has value. And you can go anywhere where resources are available and use it. And you got your shit. And it makes a very easy system, right? But you're so upset with this system so upset with this system because you have to put in a very large amount of your life into making just enough to get the convenience of being comfortable. The convenience of being comfortable. Look, if you can suffer and still be positive, you don't have to be comfortable. I'm trying to let that sink in for you. Mistakes are suffering. Problems are suffering. Everything about this world, you're always at some point gonna suffer. Even those elite you talk about suffer. Because they're still human. And I'll tell you something else. If you're always going to suffer, shouldn't you choose when you suffer? I choose when I suffer. It's willpower, man. People say get a job, then you won't be homeless. What if part of me wants to be homeless? You ever thought about that? And that same part of me that wants to be homeless, some part of you in the back of your mind wants the same thing because you're so tired of what you're doing. You're so fucking tired of it. You're so fucking fed up with it. And eventually, if enough people stop going to work and choose to live off the land, all that power that you say they have is gone. Because now there's no need for that convenience. Dog is snoring. She's having good dreams. That's good. There's no need for convenience. There's no need for that money. At all. There's no need for any currency, digital, whatever. If you, I don't practice it, but I love the idea because it's very true. I don't have to even, it's not even a theory. It's just a common sense thing that when you think about it, it's very true and you don't even have to practice it. If you can learn to make everything that you need, and if you say you need a smartphone and you can learn how to make a smartphone and learn how to create a network by yourself and learn how to do everything that is so advanced they just have you dependent on computers, all of it. Where's the need for money in that? I mean, you need money for resources, right? What if you got your own resources and did it? What if everything you do from the ground up was by you or even by somebody who doesn't give a fuck about money and just wants to do it because they can do it? What a world, huh? But I mean, it's like people think it's impossible, man. Have you seen the other shit going on around this world? And you think that's impossible? It is very far from impossible. Nobody wants to lead. Nobody wants to make a union where there's free trade. Nobody wants to risk anything. We think we're better than ancient civilizations. We think we're better than history itself in this day and age. When we don't even realize back then they risked everything. Whether over days or years, to make movements and get things going in the right direction. And nobody takes anything as serious anymore. Because if they did, none of this shit you hate would be happening. Nobody would be sitting back just watching. Because now, it doesn't matter what generation you are, you're always just watching. Because you're told to be comfortable and just watch. And you do it. And you say, I have rights and I have freedom. Any deep sector video that you've ever watched is the tip of the fucking iceberg. Because when you think about what they say and think about the intricacies of the mental gymnastics that you have to go through, it goes even deeper. It always goes deeper. It almost never stops. How deep you can go. So, this just turned into a rant, man. So, sorry, I gotta turn this off and I gotta think. Honestly, I like to think because it's the freest thing that I know how to do. Yeah.